right away, and I'm going to get through this as fast as I can, probably within a few minutes, because I'm only going to concentrate on a couple of things that have to do with your exact questions. I want you to do this face, okay, because I show you every step of the way. After this face, you can do something that I'll show you at the end of this, that you can do almost anything, okay? But let's answer your questions. Your first question was, where do you draw shapes? Like when you see these three colors, look at this first color right here. Look at this first color. That's the face color right there that I just clicked on. Then you have another tan color. Then you have a darker brown. So let's just do these three shapes. Now, I want you to see the three shapes, and I want you to remember that every layer can have a layer mask. So if I paint something this brown right here that I'm pointing to, and I want you to follow my shape, because I'm going to show you something in a few minutes. Watch how that shape goes all the way around like this, comes all the way around like this, comes all the way up to here, and then goes across the eye. Watch how I drew that shape, and here's the technique that I'm talking about. Look at where the color is of this tan right there. Now, let's go to the left where there is no tan. So the line would be drawn in the middle. Now let's look at this dark brown. Look at, I'm pointing right now to 100% of that dark brown, right? Now as I move over to here, there's 0% of the dark brown. So where would you draw it? Somewhere in the middle. Now let me show you what I'm talking about. I'll move back. I have these cut out. I may click on the wrong thing, but look, there is, I did it over here. There is where I drew that shape, okay? Let me go like this. Okay, so let me turn this layer off and on because I stroked a selection to get you to see this. Now, this was for the tan. Now, do you see that the tan actually goes way down? Let me turn this layer off so you can see it. Look at how it kind of is in here. Look at the same color that's here is also here, is also here. Do you see what I just said? Let me click on it. It's here, plus it's here, plus it's here. So this is how I drew that shape. Okay? It's drawn in the middle of the blend. That's where I want you to start memorizing. Now, sometimes the middle of the blend takes a bit. Look at the one on the cheek right over here. Now, let me turn this off. Look at how it's a softer blend. But again, let me use that same technique. Look at how you have this tan color. Don't look at the dark brown. Look at the tan color. Now look at the regular face color. Now I'm going to move my arrow until I can know that I can click on, watch this, there's the face, there's the tan. Where is the selection? Right in the middle. Again, there's the tan, there's the face color. So somewhere in the middle, and it doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to fill it solid, and then we're going to Gaussian blur it, and then we're going to remove it every single time on a layer mask. Now let's move back over to the nose. So I'm going to paint the face color, this tan for you, and this dark brown to show you how easy it is. Now here's how I drew the dark brown, if I can find it right away. There's the dark brown. Now let me make a selection of it. Look, do you see how if I, and let me remember that that was the selection. Okay, so let me deselect. Now let's do it again. There's the dark brown, there's the tan. There's the dark brown, there's the tan. There's the dark brown, much quicker, there's the tan. There's the dark brown. Now look, there's the dark brown, and it starts now. Right there I can point to dark brown, but right there is no dark brown, or hardly any. So this is what the selection, whoops, I did it again. This is what the selection looks like. So where did I draw it? Would it have mattered if I would have gone around in a little circle here? No, because we're going to Gaussian blur it anyway. So let's paint these three shapes solid, Gaussian blur them, and layer mask them, and we can now do it. So I'm only going to paint those three shapes, all right, just so you can have a good idea. And I have three layers. So we're going to put the face fill, I'll call it number 1. We're going to put that bigger shape right over here, number 2, and then I'm going to put that dark brown shape on number 3. Each time it gets higher and smaller, right? So let me deselect. Now, I'm going to start over on this, but I don't want you, I'm going to say this right. I don't want you looking at hair, so I'm turning it off. I don't want you looking at eyes because they don't matter at this point. And I don't want you looking at the mouth. So I only want to look at, and here's the real reference of the child's face, okay? So I wasn't perfect, but I was okay. But I still want you to concentrate on these three shapes right now. So let's go get the face shape right there. So I've made a selection by Command or Control clicking on the whole face right there. In fact, I'll do the whole face like this. I'm going to hit the B key, hold Alt or Option, and grab the face color. Now I'm going to paint it. Okay, so I go Alt or Option backspace. Great. Now let's turn it off just for a minute. We're going to turn it off and click to layer 2. Now I'm going to take this shape. Let me turn this off so I can show you what I'm painting. Now I'm going to take this shape right here and paint it in solid. I'm not going to just, well, you know what? I am going to fill it solid. Okay, so watch this. We're going to grab the color right there. Okay, that's that tan color, right? I'm on layer 2. So let me turn on the face now. Let me back it off. And let's go Alt or Option backspace. Now I'm going to leave it like that. Now let's go to number 3. And let me make a selection of number 3. Now for this little demo, I'm going to turn off these 2 layers so I can see the dark brown. I'm going to take the B key and I'm going to grab this color by using the eyedropper with Alt or Option, right? I'll make it just a tiny bit darker, just a bit darker. Now I'm going to paint it so it doesn't go everywhere else, because I just want you to concentrate on these 3 shapes. Am I on layer 3? Yes. So now let me turn on these 2, and now let's just paint this dark in here. And now, isn't that terribly ugly? Now let's go like this. There are the 3 shapes I'm talking about. Those are going to turn into that. So what I want to do is I want to have a little copy of that child's face kind of in this area. So let me find it. Let me find that little area right there. Okay, so now I can actually turn on these 2 because we're going to look at this little area here to make it work. Okay, so now we Gaussian blur it. Well, Brian, how much do you Gaussian blur it? So now I go on layer 2, okay, and I'm going to Gaussian blur it enough to look like this softness right there. So let's go close, and let's go to blur. And would it matter if I'm not perfect? Well, 2.0 isn't enough, right? We obviously know that. So let's go way up to about 33 is too much, so it's somewhere in the middle of that. I'm probably going to be at about that much right there, which is 20, there, 23. Let me go to 22. For whatever reason, I want to go to 22. Okay, now, how do we now control the paint? Okay, so we turn on the clicky copy and we see that, well, Brian, you have too much tan right over here. Okay, so all I do is add a layer mask. Now, I make the brush bigger. I make sure that I'm painting only at about 8 on the flow. See it up there? 8 on the flow. Right hand click to 0% hardness. Now I don't have to check that again. And if I look at my little reference here, look at how now I can paint out what I don't need. And that is the secret. Look at how right underneath, I'm going to turn this on. Look at how right underneath his nose, right here, we don't need it to be as dark, so I'm going to take it away. Now what if I take away too much? All I have to do is hit the X key and put a little back. That's it. That's as easy as it could be. Now let's turn this off and on and see how we're doing. Okay, it gets a little bit lighter right here, correct? Correct? Gets a little bit lighter. So watch how cool I do this. I'm painting on the layer mask, but I'm turning the face on the clicky copy. Now, I'm going to actually, with black, I hit the X key, so black, I'm painting in black, and I'm going to remove a little bit of this paint here. I'm making the brush smaller, and I'm removing that paint right there. Now look what I did. Do you see how I softly removed the paint using the clicky copy as my mask? So do you see how I'm starting to get the feel of that child's face? Okay, that is how you paint. And that is how we make it work. Okay? Now, let's do that dark brown spot. So let's put it in. Let me turn this off. And now we Gaussian blur it and look over here to the left. And then let's both of us say when it's enough to Gaussian blur. So let's go to do the blur. And now obviously 22 is way too much. So let's go down to about, I'm pretty close there. I mean 10 is pretty close. Now I went up to 14. I think it should be around 12. So I hit the return key. Now let's turn this off and on. Oh gosh, I'm almost right there. Do you see how easy that was? See how neat that was? Now what I want to do is add a little bit more dark brown to the bottom. See where this dark brown goes down a little bit? Well, let's make the brush a little bigger. Let's grab this dark brown by just sampling it, and now let's just paint it a little bit farther down. See how now we started with a solid shape, and you see how we're starting to get the nose to work. Now when we start putting in the nostrils and we start making all those shapes work, I'll even do one more layer up here, and I'm probably going too far at the moment, but I'm going to find the nostrils. Let me see where they are. I don't even know where they are. Let me see if I can find the bottom of the nose in my paths. So just give me a second and let's see if I have nose darks right there. So there's a nose dark. That's not the nostrils. Nose dark too. So there is this. I want you to see this selection right here. I'm going to make a selection of it. Do you see this color right here? Well, do you see how I drew that? So let's now grab that color right there. See it? I'm grabbing it. Let's turn off the clicky copy. Are we on the right layer? Yes. So I'm going to hit Command or Control H just so I hide the selection. Now I'm going to make the brush bigger and I'm going to paint that dark just the way I see it. Wow, that's really bad, Brian. I mean, that's horrid. It's just too strong, right? Well, not really, because all I have to do now is slightly Gaussian blur this. So let's take this shape, go into blur, and remember this, please remember this, please remember this. It will not look good until you're 70 to 80% completed with any particular section. So now let me turn this on. Okay, we have to soften this edge right over here. So how do we soften it? We add a layer mask. Whoops, I added a layer mask. See how it's black? I added a layer mask incorrectly. So let me Control Z back or Command Z back. Remember that I had Command H on. You have to deselect. Have no selection active when you add a layer mask. Now, watch what I want to do to this. I want to take this and I want to soften this edge. So let me come in here and soften this edge. Just take my time. It's going to take a minute. Look at how nicely I'm softening. I'm running my brush up and around this edge right here. Now I've got that nicely soft. See how nice that was? Now I can add a little bit more to that in a few minutes. Okay? And so what if you have to add more layers? So now let's soften this. Probably should have Gaussian blurred this a little bit more and then use 2 layers for the nostrils. But let me now soften this bottom. Boy, that's way too strong, Brian. Way too strong. But look at how I'm softening that hard line by painting black on the layer mask. There. And now that doesn't look too bad. Now all I have to do is add a little bit of a layer underneath this. So watch this. If I add a layer underneath this and I paint with that dark brown, do you see how I can increase the dark brown? Watch, I'm just going to freehand this. Watch, I'm just going to freehand it. Look at how I'm just taking the dark brown and adding a little bit more brown to the bottom of the nostril and to across here and to across down here. So let me use my bracket keys to make this a little bit bigger brush, and now I've started to get that whole feel of how that should look. And look at, I've started to get that whole cool feel of how that should look. Now let me fill this in. Isn't that nice? Now look at how slow I'm going. And now when I back off on this, look at how you and me just painted a little bit of that child's nose. Now, how would you draw this dark? See this little dark right there? Right around here? Let me see if I can find that little dark. If I can't, I'll redraw it for you. Nope, that's not it. Let's find it here. Let's go here. Let's try, oh, I don't even know where it is. So let me go here. I don't even know if I have that drawn. Yes, I did have it drawn, but it's not perfect. So it was this one right there. I'm going to make a selection of it. And I'm probably going too far at the moment. So let me go here. Oh, I was hitting the wrong button. I was hitting the wrong button. Okay, so it took me that long to make a selection of it. Now, what would you do? Where would you put that layer? Well, you would put it one above the nose. So look at, we have 2 layers for the nose right now. Right there, there. So I'm now going to go up here, right there, okay? And I'm going to make sure I'm selected on, oh, I didn't even make a new layer yet. So let's make a new layer right now for this shape. Well, let's go get the color. So now I'm going to go close and sample the color for right now. Turn it off. Look at my little face right over here to the left. Make my brush bigger. Hit Command or Control H to hide the selection. And now let's paint this one to come around here. Now, do you see how hard that is? I'm painting it. It looks absolutely horrible because it's too hard. Now, let's deselect. Let's Gaussian blur it. And a little bit more than 3. And now that's looking much better. Look at how nice that looks. Now we have to take some of it away. So let's turn this on. And look, we have to take some of it away. So how do we take it away? We add a layer mask and we paint a little bit of it out right here. So I have to deselect, and now I can paint that out just like this. Now, do you see how I'm softening? Watch this, and then I'll stop. See how I want to soften it right through right there and right there. So I want to soften it in both those areas. And I did. And now look at how nice that looks. I mean, that really strong shape suddenly got pretty, right? Okay, that's how many layers for the nose? Not many. So now I would keep on going with smaller shapes. See this shape over here to the right? See this shape? That's just an orangey shape. Now, do you see how you could draw that shape just like this? See how you could come up and around and down and around like this? Then paint it, Gaussian blur it, add a layer mask, and remove your stuff. See this white? Paint a little bit of white, add a layer mask. First of all, paint it hard, Gaussian blur it, and remove what you don't want. See this white that's right here? I'll even draw it with you, just for right now, just for right this second. Okay, so watch how I draw this, not even very well, in the middle of where the white and the tan. In fact, I'll come all the way down to that little circle down here. Now, do you see how kind of horrible this shape is drawn? See that? Now, we're going to fill it with white, we're going to Gaussian blur it, and then we're going to remove it. Okay, so I go down here, I make a selection of that, right? I hit the B key, I grab the pretty white right there, turn off, you know what? I drew it on the wrong thing. Oh, Brian, you drew it on the wrong thing. Well, I've done that before and I'll do it again. So let me replace it and put it where it's supposed to go. I know you're going to think this was really silly, but hey, it happens. So I'm going to take the P key. I'm going to marquee that whole thing, grab it and move it over here. Now I'm going to hit Command T and I'm going to make it bigger. And I'm going to make it bigger. Now, do you see how I fixed a boo-boo without taking too long to do it? There. That didn't take too long. Now let's Command click it or Control click it. Let's make sure we're painting in that bright color. So let's go like this and make it brighter even. Now let's turn off the clicky copy. Let's hit Command H to hide it, make the brush bigger, and paint this huge white thing, which now looks horrible, right? Okay, well, maybe not. Let's deselect. What do? We Gaussian blur it. We Gaussian blur it more than that, more than that, more than that, more than that, and now we're getting close. There. That's it. That's gorgeous. Now, how do we remove it? We add a layer mask. We take out the whole middle section by painting black. And now look at how I can use the black. Now, what if I go too far? What if I say, oh man, I lost it? Just hit the X key and put it back. That's not a big deal because you're using a non-destructive way to make this work. Now, let's hit the X key back and take some more away. Take some more off the top, just a little bit. And now, look at how we've made that nose have a nice shine. Is it perfect? No. Does it want to be perfect? It doesn't have to be perfect. So, there is a neat way that I can show you how you can see those shapes. Just concentrate on one shape at a time. Now, seeing that I went through the white, let's do this. The white is off. The darkness on the nose is gone because that's a small shape, right? Let's get close. Sorry. So let me turn this back on. Okay. White gone, that color gone, that nostril gone, that shading gone, and that dark gone, and now the main dark gone, and look. So that is a nice way to show you that you don't have to be so concerned with being perfect. Remember, you have layer masks to work in. So what if it takes you 100 layers? Just keep on going, okay? And remember, it is going to look horrible until you're within, like, let's pretend the nose area, and I can be 70% completed on the nose area and start to think, hey, that's looking pretty good. I'm about 50% on the nose area, and I'm thinking it's looking okay, right? So it's going to take you, don't worry about the doubt. But I think if you did this child's face, it would be really smart. Now let me save it and close it, because I want to show you something. So here is, it's taken a minute. Here are the student projects that they did. This is what a student did after they painted the face. They wanted to do a baby's face. Now, can you start to see the shapes? You see this darkness that I'm actually pointing here? This secondary darkness? Now, you see the third darkness that's in here? Can you see how to draw that, Gaussian blur it, and then layer mask it away? So, I want you to see that every single thing gets smaller, right? All the colors on the nose get smaller. The colors on the eyes go from big to small. That means lower layer to higher layer. Okay? So just remember, each shape is painted the same way. Even though it's soft, just use your Gaussian blur, use your layer mask, and then go on to the next shape. Okay? So, this is a painted student project that is in the illustration module, and it's even in the upper module. Okay? So I hope that helped, and let me know.